Good evening, Internet. You are watching the Non-Pro TV Party Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. recap show. I am your host, Frank, joined not at all in studio by Al, Matt, and probably James. I say probably because James is on the laptop, and we all know how well that goes. Right, James?
No, come on. It's going to work great.
It's going to be fine.
Oh, yeah. No problems.
Party, we do a live Google Plus, almost said Google. It's good. Google Plus Hangout series where we geek out about our favorite television shows and invite you all to join along. We're not just recapping TV, we are acting weird about it. On this episode, we've got James has the synopsis for us. James, I'm pointing at you.
Yes, on this episode, The Things We Bury, Coulson and his team find themselves in a fight against Hydra to uncover an ancient city, while Ward kidnaps his brother for a violent showdown.
Ooh. So on TV Party, we assume you've seen the episode and want to talk to us about it. Otherwise, what are you doing here? Go watch it, and then watch this YouTube video afterwards. So what did you guys think of this momentous episode?
This episode was awesome.
Glad you didn't say momentous.
I'll say it was momentous.
One for momentous, one for awesome. Matt?
I just gotta say, it was fan-freaking-tastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a very cool episode. Basically, this is right after the aftermath of, wow, like an episode after Ward escapes, right? This is the next episode.
Yep.
Which is very weird. We're not used to that. We're getting spoiled here. Like, there's immediate payoff to things.
It's like 2 episodes, I think.
Has it been 2? I don't know about
like,
that.
Not last episode, but the episode before that. It was right at the very end he escaped.
All right, good.
That's true. And then the next episode was all about the city finding stuff. Yeah.
Right.
But one cool thing is we've discovered the fact that there is a city, and then the next episode they find out where it is. That's pretty neat. Yep. So yeah, just an overarching beginning point to make, for genre TV, it's pretty weird to have immediate payoffs or near immediate payoffs. Pretty cool. Or not. I don't know.
No, I mean, it was pretty cool. I like that we don't, there's really no wasting time here. You're pretty much just going right where you need to go. Like, the plot is moving along at a steady pace. It's not fluffing it around like it was, really first season. Like, there was a lot of fluff in season 1, and there's none of that happening in season 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a trademark of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like how for a mystery show, we're getting, as Frank said, we're getting a lot of payoff right away, and it's definitely moving forward, which is, I think, a kind of a treat.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. even feels like a mystery show to me anymore. It's just a show with a lot of mysteries in it, but I feel like mystery shows have become so obsessed with drawing out their long mysteries that I feel like because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is just like, here's a question, here's an answer, that it's just walked itself right out of the genre. It says, I don't want to be that anymore, you know? This is awesome.
It is pretty cool. So basically, the major things that happen in this episode is I love the entire theming that happens in this season of S.H.I.E.L.D. Obviously, Things We Bury, the theme is burying things, both literally in the terms of I want to call him Ward, but we can't do that in this episode. Grant and Christian and their thing with the well that they had their little drama about as children, but also metaphorically with people hiding things, and there's a lot of that. So we get origins on, or at least details on what's going on in the backstory of Whitehall. We get stuff on Agent Grant Ward and what may have motivated him to become the person he is today. We get a little backstory on Hunter and Bobby and their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
A little bit about Sky's father.
Oh, yeah. Sky's father and the entire Inhuman City. I mean, the city.
I got to be honest. My favorite thing about this episode is probably the same thing. The thing that makes me most frustrated is I just love what they were doing with Christian and Grant. You know, they open up the whole scene, and I'm not 100% sure the motivations here, because they open up the scene, and Christian's on the phone, and the way he's talking to me sounds like, you know, he's like, oh, I'm out in the open, out by the old family country home, and I'm like, well, this just sounds stupid. This sounds like he wants to get kidnapped by Ward. Like this is intentional. But he doesn't get to continue going because Ward rips him out of the car and attacks him. And then, Christian is saying all this like really reasonable and plausible stuff for what Ward, like why Ward would be so messed up. But Ward's also right. Christian's really good with his words. He turns everything Ward says around on him. Everything.
It's almost as if they both could be true. Like they're both right. And
Right?
Christian manipulates Grant, and Grant is, but at the same time, Grant is a psychopath. He's a killer. Like as much as you're manipulated by someone, you gotta. At one point, there's some personal responsibility. So this entire scene is great for me because I think they're both right. Like it's not obvious, and there's a lot of people who would hate this kind of storytelling, but those people are bad.
Well, I agree. That was really good. I like that whole entire dialogue where Grant's like, I take responsibility for this stuff. That's why it's all your fault.
Yeah, exactly. It seems, if you look at the paper, like the script, it's almost as if like Grant is saying, I take responsibility. I'm still this reformed Hydra member, Grant, from the season. But like he's not. He's absolutely not taking responsibility. He's blaming Christian for this.
You guys hollowed me out.
And the best part is that I don't even know Christian at the end of their confrontation. Christian admits that that he wanted his younger brother dead because, and a very interesting piece of factoid is that that was the kid that seemed to be able to skirt by and not get the abuse that the two older children seemed to get in the family home. But I don't even know if I believed him. Christian is clearly so good at saying what people want to hear, as a senator, as a politician.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm frustrated because I hate them both, but I want to know which one I'm supposed to hate more. Which one's the worst person? Tell me, S.H.I.E.L.D. But it's good, and I guess it really doesn't matter because assumably, the big thing Ward did in this episode is he kills them and his parents apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to hate Ward more just for the fact that he out-crazied his brother by killing him.
I don't know if I did, because his brother, right before that, just admitted that he manipulated a young child who was bordering on psychopathy into murdering his younger brother.
Well, I think basically it's like as you guys have said already, both of them are right, and that's the terrible truth about it. Like that, like there's no one side or the other. Like both sides are completely terrible. One just happened to, have the upper hand in the end. But I do want to say, speaking of like the end of like the whole entire confrontation, I love the shot of them walking away together after Christian gives his confession, and Ward get like this really sick look on his face. He's like, "I forgive you, brother." And they walk off together at like the front of a Hallmark card, like brothers arm in arm with this picturesque fall setting around them. But like you can tell, like they're all like Christian's completely bloodied up after like being tortured, and it was like this sick, disgusting, like familial love thing that like you assume was like, oh my gosh, are they gonna be partners now? But then you find out what happens afterwards.
Well, we don't actually know that. Maybe that wasn't all Grant. Maybe Christian was like, no, I gotta pay for this, and totally went in on that like on his own. And like, I mean, obviously Grant had like a bit of a failsafe there because he went and recorded what happened down by the well, but we don't know how crazy Christian really went.
It could have also been staged. I mean, that's a possibility. But I think it's just so frustrating. I'm used to having this problem with they're both right, with like a good villain and a good hero on opposite sides of a thing, and they're both like have valid points, and they both have respectable things about them. This problem is they both have so many unrespectable things about them.
Yeah. In this case, they're both wrong, which is interesting. I want to throw a few more things out before we leave this. We could do an entire show just on their interaction.
Yes.
Maybe we should, but there's the fact that he was tortured into confessing that he did want his younger brother hurt. So I don't know. I mean, I think we fall into a lot of traps when we watch television to assume certain things about certain characters. For example, the fact that the senator is someone we shouldn't trust and who's a manipulative monster. But was he? A lot of the things he said that was just blaming Grant for his own behavior could be true. Like, you know, it may not be just saying the right thing at the right time. Maybe that whole confession was certainly under duress.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about
I
a
feel
little kid who hates his brother? A little kid who hates his brother and wants him to be harmed may not be like totally responsible for what he did. And finally, I think the only thing that shows us that the senator is a bad guy, in the same way that Matt suggested earlier, that I think we're supposed to hate Grant most because he ended up killing his parents, and that's one of those like fictional cannot do's. But I think it's because it was the suggestion that Christian was there at the lake house to meet some woman or some like
his mistress.
Yeah. Yeah, and that means he's guilty, and like horror movie logic steps in, and we think he's a bad guy. It's so interesting how the show does this by putting in like little tidbits here and there to feed you your feelings about a person.
I want to touch upon one thing you mentioned about how like Christian said he like during his confession he said he did because he hated Grant. I would also want to say like the thing that makes me think that Christian was being at least partially truthful about his confession was when he mentioned his mom. He mentioned a lot how he hated his mom, like, or he hated his younger brother. He hated his mom through their younger brother. Like, he hated the fact that his mother let the youngest brother get away scot-free, and like he wanted her to pay. Like Christian hated the parents as well, and I feel like that went a bit too far than just trying to make up a story, or at least in some. That's how I would think in my head about it. So I feel like there is some nugget of truth that the Ward family is just extremely screwed up.
It's one of the few parts of their stories that actually matches up. You know, which is supposed to look for.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I actually really like the idea that it wasn't necessarily the father in the situation, that the mother was actually the one who was the abuser, because normally it's usually the other way. So I feel like, well, that's interesting. They really, went a different way with that.
Do you, Al?
It sounded more like what I got from it was that the father was like physically abusive and the mother was emotionally abusive. But again, they did in great detail.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but so I'm not really secretly judging Al for thinking that women are terrible.
Every sentence he said.
Let's move on. All right, so we have a lot more to cover. So the next big chunk of there was a good amount of spying. We don't want to slight that. It was cool how they had the Australian base and the Hawaiian base, and how Coulson was basically manipulating people into doing the various things that needed to be done to get the information they needed, the location of the city. That was kind of cool. I'll give a quick handout to that. But I think we want to concentrate on the next big chunk, which would be Whitehall. What we learn about our this season's big bad, really, or at least one of the bads. So what do you think about that?
It was disturbing, to say the least, finding out his mindset and his actions. It was very nice to see Agent Carter again, seeing her interrogation of him, and I really liked the transitioning shot of the time passing while he was in his cell. I thought that was some really neat camera work there and effects.
Yeah, that was.
It was interesting too because I liked the incredible detail they went to show you like how the times were changing, and also I think they went to the detail to show you how liked he became as a prisoner. And here's why I say this: you'll notice that, or at least how far he came, how like far disconnected we got from his original crimes. I say that because his chess set got bigger and nicer. He got more books. It wasn't just that things were getting updated, things were coming from going from less awful tattered hand-me-downs to nicer things.
Right, and that can mean either Hydra's influence or like a bigger meta reason is how willing we are to sort of accept evil amongst our or in our midst if we feel threatened by it.
I
Yeah.
also like the reason why he was let out was because one Undersecretary Alexander Pierce took pity on him and felt that he served his time and deserved freedom.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good nod. I think
Yep.
the culmination of his backstory, and the fact that the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents didn't really know it and they had to piece it together, but the culmination is the scene in the operating room, which was pretty graphic and horrific. Do you think it was too much? You guys, what do you think?
I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has gone pretty graphic before, but I mean that like in like the fight scenes and kind of like the action scenes, but this was just I don't know. I felt like this was on a whole entire different level. Like
It's weird. I
eviscerating an
kind of
innocent,
sometimes.
like
Go ahead,
eviscerating an
Matt.
innocent
Sorry.
woman, like in like for like science. I mean, it was pretty grisly and just even though you really don't see too much graphic, just the implications and just thinking about what is going on. I really don't know what to feel about it.
There's a lot
It's
said about like the Scorch character. I think from last season when he got set on fire. I think that was the last time we talked about violence on the show.
Yeah.
But like all these action sequences compared to something where there's basically the victim of it is helpless. I think that's a big part of it. James, you were saying something?
I just this is weird. I guess I kind of forget sometimes that the Marvel stuff isn't for kids. I know that sounds weird, but I feel like the movies always feel light on the grotesque stuff. They're violent, but they tend to be kind of violence, no blood. To a large degree, a lot of the Marvel movies, to preserve the PG-13 rating. But because television doesn't work like that, and because, it's weird, like there are all these kids running around dressing up as Iron Man. I always feel jarred when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., uses the fact that it can get away with more on television and the fact that it's a darker tone and a darker storyline for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that it's like, oh, right, this is aimed for adults. I don't know. That's something that always it always jars me whenever they do something incredibly violent or scary. Coulson Brain thing, this, innocent woman, and then of course we talked about the man getting lit on fire again, Scorch.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the whole entire Coulson thing because I mentioned in our pre-Sunday discussion, like I feel like you're supposed to deliberately compare that surgery scene with the Coulson's brain surgery scene, kind of showing that both Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., they're kind of like two sides of the same coin, able to use science for very dark means to accomplish their goals.
It's that creepy line every time he says it's like science requires experimentation, and it was very graphic, and it really does suck you in and pull you back at the same time because you're trying not to accept what's going on, but it's just oof. I mean, I was gone from the moment they started like draining spinal fluid, where like that, and that wasn't even bloody at all, but it was still just so invasive.
Yeah, I don't think it's the graphicness of what happened. It's really what one. It's a one-for-one relationship to something that was really going on. Nazis experimented on prisoners, and the fact that or anybody, there are prison experiments on people, and some of them are incredibly invasive and graphic, and some of them are, many of them resulted in deaths. But this is a person. This is a real person who apparently had no no defense against this. I think bloodshed aside and ratings aside, this was a little extreme, but I mean they didn't do it for no reason. It wasn't like a monster of the week. This is establishing their fictional Nazi as a Nazi. They're trying to make this character the worst of the worst, and they certainly accomplished that. But to suggest that Grant or who are the other villains we've had this year in S.H.I.E.L.D., any of the people that showed up are anywhere near as bad as Whitehall. Even last season's villains, last season's Hydra members, aren't as bad as this guy. I would even go as far as the Red Skull isn't as bad as this guy, because we never seen the Red Skull do anything other than like mass violent killings. And I think that's pretty extreme. I don't know what S.H.I.E.L.D.'s rating is, and I can't seem to find it, because when you look for TV ratings, I think I'm looking for another search term.
I'm pretty sure it's TV PG.
Really?
I'm pretty sure, unless they changed it for this season, which I wouldn't be surprised for scenes like this. But I remember season 1 was definitely TV PG, because I remember being kind of shocked at like some of the violent stuff that went on, like how they got away with the PG rating.
Well, I think we've established that even if it was graphic, I mean, it was for a good cause. The character is now horrible and a villain, and we can't wait to see him get what's coming to him. We also found out more about him, like, amazingly, his immortality or his agelessness seems to have been taken from Sky's mother. Somehow Sky's mother is one of the select few of humans who are experimented on by the Kree and are found to be worthy of being saved. We know now that they're the Kree. They've been established. Even if we don't want to call them Kree, they're the big blue aliens in the tube. So some humanity was meant to be wiped out, according to Sky's father, except for a few people who are to be saved. This all fits in very well with the Inhuman storyline. And we find out that Whitehall, in his obsessive compulsion to find out everything there is about this object, basically tortured Guy's mother and made a endless, immortal, inhuman enemy, possibly, Inhuman, capital Inhuman, of Sky's father, a character we still don't know much about, other than the fact that Kyle MacLachlan rocked this episode.
Yes, he did.
Terrifying. Like, he's just crazy. That's not her name!
I have to say, as much as I don't like him, like, he's clearly a villain, he's clearly a bad guy, if by the end of this series he doesn't get his revenge on Whitehall, like, I'm on board with him for that. I want to see him, like, take back everything that he stole, literally. Like, I mean, but as far as everything else goes with the character, he's clearly a villain. I hope he's stopped, but I hope he gets that revenge. I mean, I feel that, like I got it. No, you gotta get it back, man. He's an evil guy.
Oh, let's call him the Doctor. Wait,
Yeah, the Doctor.
You see, but whatever. The Doctor. So, do you guys agree with Al? Do you think that he's a villain? Because I'm not sold on that. Maybe I'm a jerk.
I think, what made me... It's great. That ending scene where we have him, Ward, and... Whitehall, thank you. In a room together, and he says, it really says something getting to look your enemy in the eye. Then you see his eyes, and you see Whitehall's eyes, then you see Grant's eyes, then you see Whitehall's eyes, then you see his eyes, and then you see Grant's eyes. That is a room of 3 people who consider each other their enemies, staring each other in the eye, agreeing to work together. I don't think any of the people in that room are TM, quote-unquote good guys, but they are all, even though they're working together, definitely enemies.
I think most of them are actually not. I mean, I definitely think the Doctor's only there to get Whitehall. I think that's his motivation. I think this episode we figured out the real reason. I think the Coulson thing is it's clearly something weird, because he lets Coulson go when he nicks the artery of Trip. That entire... Man, this is an awesome character. I feel like you might be right, Frank. Like fandoms, but like we're just like showering praise on cool things that happened, but still. Awesome.
I think you might be right. I think it might be a misdirection. I think we might be led to think that Coulson is taking everything from him and that S.H.I.E.L.D. took everything from him, but it was really Hydra and Whitehall. And that the only thing Coulson has been doing, the only thing that makes him and Coulson not get along is that Coulson's kind of taking his place as Sky's father.
I can kind of see it, but I do kind of hope like the Doctor doesn't end up on Coulson's side. I do like the idea of all three people kind of being against S.H.I.E.L.D. but also against each other. I mean, the only one I could think of that try to like go back to the good side is Grant, but we know how his mindset is about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really don't want a complete total face turn for the Doctor.
Unless Galactus shows up, and then everyone should just
Then everybody has to team up.
and join up against Galactus. Yeah, there's a lot of cool developments in this episode. The story is really paying off, and I can't wait to find out what's next. What do you guys want to see next from the show? Should we talk about what we want to see next on the show, or should we talk about Bobby and Hunter?
I really kind of want to talk about Bobby and Hunter.
Cool, that's fine, because I'm okay with that. That's the weakest part of the show for me, this episode, but it's okay. I like the fact that they're building up this. I for the first time I care about their divorce, which is cool, but the fact that they like yelled at each other until they made out or had sex, like the biggest trope of all tropedom.
Well, did they actually have sex, or did they just close the door and talk? Did one of them shoot a dog?
All right. Good point.
No, I think that's why I really wanted to talk about this scene, because I agree with you, Frank, in the sense that I think Bobby and Hunter's relationship has been the weakest of the subplots for this season. But the way they did it, I think for me just really worked. I really liked when Bobby's kind of like, "What's your problem?" to Hunter, and that, Hunter goes, he's like, "How can I trust you? You're a super spy, like you're really good at what you're doing." And of course, I think we're right. I think we saw her, do something terrible in that interrogation, and then he's just, able to trust her. He's not able to trust her. But obviously, he cares enough to keep trying, and then of course they go into their, TV sex.
I think what it is it wasn't necessarily that I like their relationship or I like they will, they won't, they. I just really like both of these characters, and I was just kind of happy they hooked up. Like, not necessarily because I was hoping that they would, just that the two of them got to at some point. Like, I was just, because I liked them, I liked that they were enjoying themselves. I think that's really what it comes down to. I wasn't invested in the romance.
A Hawkeye showing up in a TV show. Hunter is miserable enough to almost be Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. Okay, well, that's it for us. I can't wait for the next episode. It's a really good episode we just came out of, and I can't wait. We have one this week, right?
Yes, I think we have 2 more episodes before the break.
Oh, very cool. All right, guys, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our previous Hangouts were probably a better organized than this one. We kind of ran out of time here. So, yeah!